It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So today I'm going to be doing part 2 of the soldering fumes videos, and in the previous part you would have seen that I had a look at what kind of PM2.5 or particulate matter at the size of 2.5 micron soldering produces using my little 2.5 detector, right, that I purchased. So I've gone and purchased a cheap soldering fume extractor, and that's what I've got here on the table with me that you'll see in a moment. But before we do that, I want to say that I bought this with my own money from Banggood. I will have a link below if you do want to check it out yourself, because I don't even know how this thing's going to perform, right? I'm kind of a little bit skeptical about it, but we'll see how it goes. But I want to show you that product, and the first thing is, yes, I'm aware that this is a clone of the Hako soldering extractor, right? This thing's ridiculously cheap. It's $23, $25 US, maybe throwing some shipping, depends on whatever deals they've got at the time. And for me, being a skeptic about soldering extraction devices, I did not want to be spending $100+ on an official Hako soldering fume extractor. The design's very simple. You can see there's other ones out there on the internet. Typically it's those big black things with the flanges, and it sits on like a metal stand, and it has the filter that you slot into it, right? Well, I liked this design a little bit better because the stand, the feet, take a lot of space. The lab at work actually has one of them, and I wasn't very impressed by it because I soldered the one of the macro PCBs that I'd built for somebody at work with it, and it didn't seem very effective. Had to be very, very close to it, and it was very loud and noisy. So when I found this being the cheap clone, and the fact that this has a option to lie it down flat, which will hopefully increase the airspeed and flow that it pulls fumes away from you, I thought this would be a much better investment to check out. Now, it still uses pretty much the same black nondescript foam kind of filter, but they call it a carbon filter, maybe? Sponge filter. It's a sponge filter. Is this sponge going to actually capture 2.5 micron and smaller particulates? Will it be effective in actually trapping them before they get into my lungs? We'll find out. So this is what I was talking about, that you can actually sit it down flat, so it should actually draw a higher air velocity because it's a smaller gap. And you'll see from this close-up picture that I was showing before, it's got it's 14 watts on the fan. I'm not sure if it tells you what the cubic feet. No, it doesn't. So yeah, no, there we go. So without the filter and with the filter, about a cubic meter a minute without filter. Is it going to be fast enough? I don't know. So let's get it out of the package and actually have a look. So it's still in this grey plastic. It's got my address and details on it, but the package is actually sealed there, as you can see. I haven't actually opened it yet, so I'm going to cut it open and pull out the box. Hopefully it hasn't been trashed in transit. Okay, so there it is, the FA400 smoke absorber, ESD safe, so it claims. Not that you really should be doing anything with it. Apparently there's an optional arm that I didn't even know existed that you can clamp onto it. And that's it. Nice and simple. Let's crack it open. Okay, so while this looks big, and while it is big, it's still smaller than those black fans on the stand. Right, there's nothing else in the box. There's these two. So straight away, I'm kind of concerned about how effective this thing is, because it's kind of really hard. The front camera will show you a bit better on this, but you can see the light porosity going through this. How is this going to stop particles that are so fine that they get into your lungs when you can see light through this sponge filter? It's quite a hard filter. It's flexy, but it's quite firm. Okay. All right. So that's the spare. In it goes. We can see there's one already in here. Let's pull that out. Right. So there's the extra filter. Look at the beast of a fan in that. Okay. So I'm expecting this will be noisy. How noisy? I don't really know. But so this is the 19 to 16 watt version, whereas the pictures show it's 16 to 14 watts. So maybe I was lucky and I got the upgrade because the page I showed you was directly linked from my order. Woo, cool bananas. So I got a beefier fan. All right, now let's undo the electrical cable here. So what I'll do is I'll actually pull out my phone and I'll turn on the sound meter so you can have an idea of how loud this is, because if it's very loud and it saturates the microphone, it won't really give you a true idea of how loud you might expect this to be. And if you need to be or wanting to be using this in your workspace, it might be a good idea to know the volume that you're dealing with. It's just a question of if this is actually going to reach. It'll reach. All right. Okay, so my phone. Where's my sound meter? Okay, so sound meter at the moment, we're kicking around 30 ambient. All right, so without the filter on, let's go. Okay, so we're looking at about 60 decibels, which is actually not too bad. I'd say it sounds about as noisy as my work laptop when it's going at full pelt. So it's not too bad. It's not too bad. All right, let's open up this filter piece. This filter is way softer than this one. Like, if I put the two together and I push, this one is flexing the other one. What is with that? Well, maybe we'll try one, the other, and then both together if it fits. I don't know. I don't know. All right. So we can. Well, we'll leave that because it might get louder if the motor strains with the extra load through a filter. But I don't know how effective the filter is going to be, so it might not do anything. Okay. How do I fit this on? It looks like there's like these spaces here. I think it's just a straight up push in. Yeah, it's just a straight up push in. There's no special mechanism. Looks right, looks fancy. Okay, here we go. Baselining it back to 30. So it's about the same, really. Hasn't changed much, which is great. Okay, so now I don't have an airspeed detector here, but I can feel the air movement at the back. I'm barely feeling anything through this foam at all in the front, and it's kind of concerning. Now if I turn this off, and I pull that out. Let's try that again. I can feel a little bit more, but not very much. But we'll see how effective it is very, very shortly. I honestly don't think that hard filter is going to make much difference. So let's get this set up. And actually, I don't think there's an orientation for the foam either, because there's no instructions for it. So what we'll do is I'll set this up this way. I'll produce the fumes this side, and then I'll have the detector on this side, on this side of it. Actually, if I do it this way, that might work a bit better. And then we can see what we are experiencing. Okay. Ooh. Actually, because I want the orientation to be, we're gonna go this way, only because the ports on the actual detector are on the left-hand side, and it'll just make it a little bit easier to read the readings of it. But we'll check it out in a couple of different ways. Okay, so there's the detector. Right, it's hanging off on that side. Let's plug it in and see what our baseline is going to be like. Okay, we're sitting around 38, 40. Bit dustier today, I guess, maybe. Could be from last time I used it and it's still got some particulate in it. So I'm just going to blow across it. Because the last time I used this was for the other video, and I'm just wondering if I've clogged the sensor. Which if I have, is not very effective, is it? That it's going to pack it in after that. But it did okay during the bushfires, so yeah, I don't know. Alright, well look, I've got the soldering iron. Got some solder. So, we'll need to turn this on first, so that we don't get particulate racking that. Actually, you know what? We're just going to establish the baseline, so I'm going to move that there. I'm going to start some solder and some fumes. Okay, so this is at 300. So we're going to wait for this to heat up, and we'll see how the detector goes without this on, and then we're going to actually turn it on and see if it makes any difference through the filter or not. Rightio, so we've got some vapors coming through. You can see it's just drifting around a little bit as normal. It's just the solder that I had tinned it from last time that I used it. You can see the 2.5 count is already coming up. 70, 91, 83. Right, so it is reading. I don't know how accurate it's reading at this point in time. The distance from there to there is about very similar to how we had it before. Yeah, it's about 10 inches. Okay, so we're in the 200s now. 300s, 350s. Okay. So, just like last time, I think we hit about 1200. I definitely remember it was at least 1200, if not over 1200. So that's just straight up, right? It's just going everywhere. It's creating its own convection currents. Me talking is pushing it around. The sensor says everything is okay. Yes, sensor, what are you doing? Hello? Okay, so obviously the sensor being on the side is not giving us the same results as when it was further up where the actual particulate was coming straight into it. So maybe we might need to just adjust how we think about this. Alright, so it's still kind of reading some particulates. Let's go a little bit higher. Just dragging everything on the magnet rail a bit higher and over it. Right, so now that we don't have any more fumes, it's kind of died off again. You know what? Let's just not put it on the back, but use it as if we had it in the lab somewhere where it's actually trying to draw it away from us and through the foam, through the filter. Okay, so let's just check that we're... Okay, so there we go. That's what we're talking about. What happened last time? 1288, 14, 1600, 1800. Right, so definitely not very good for you. Not healthy at all. So let's just clear that. Let's just put that back in the rack. Now, we are going to... I'm going to turn that around. So it's as if we are soldering just underneath the detector. We're going to turn on the fan. We'll just wait for this to come back down again. Alright, so we're sitting about 100. Starting to clear off a bit. 70, 68. I feel like the sensor, its reading's got a bit of a lag to it, but you know, it's still doing okay. And it's producing an AQI 2.5, which is kind of a combo between the 1 and the 2.5 and the 10 in some kind of fashion. Some kind of average by the looks of it. Okay, so look, it's going to be sitting around the 50 something because we had particles in the air, and I kind of remember that when we did part 1, it was very similar. So let's go and turn on this fan. Here we go. And let's pretend to drop some solder like it's hot and see if the fumes go into the fan or not, and what our 2.5 looks like. Hey, wow. I'm genuinely impressed. It's actually pulling it acrosswards into the fan. It might not feel like it, but it's actually sucking it in. I'm very impressed. Now we can see the amount of solder that I've been feeding it into is, I mean, you can't see it on the camera, but it's actually dripping off the tip now, so it's quite a lot. But the 2.5 detector is, I mean, it's, some of it's going around it. I think there's a bit of vortexing happening at the back here, but it's actually, this thing's doing a lot better than I expected. You can see the surprise in my face. I was not expecting this result at all. Holy smokes. I mean, that filter is definitely doing something. You can see it's just wisping across that way. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to test it on the low mode. Now you can see there's still some smoke coming off of that. So now I'm going to flip it over. Now this should put more strain on the motor, maybe. Okay, so now it's pulling it through the bottom of that because I'm forming mostly a seal around it. So if I put my brass sponge there, so look, it's not capturing everything, right? Let's be honest about it. It was still sort of hitting the 100 plus, but it was staying under 200, which is good, which is really good. It's better than what I thought it was going to do. And I can feel there's still a good amount of air that's kicking out the back here. So let's go and feed some solder into the back of this and see how well it pulls when it's lying flat. Wow, holy smokes. Okay, this is amazing. This thing is just sucking it right in like you would not believe. Like, it's coming up, it's going over the lip, and it's going straight in. Now, I know you can't see this very well, but I am going to try and get you... So you can see it barely went over 100, I think, if at all. I saw it do it about at 80 or something, because I was too mesmerized looking at the smoke. So let's just add a bit more, feed some solder into that. Look at that, it's staying good, about 80 or so. I'm so impressed with that. You know, I'm just going to float the iron around here, and you can see it's kicking off. It's working, but down here, you know, the fumes just aren't getting up there. And I've got the detector right above where that air is being pushed out. So this filter is actually making a difference. Okay, so I'm going to unjack the detector. I'm going to take the detector off. I'm going to grab a spare camera. And I'm going to try and get it to show you what it's doing on this. Now, hopefully this will work. I do apologize if you see a big red screen. If you do see a red screen and you're getting sort of triggered by it, I do apologize in advance. So let's see if I've lost my mouse. Is it? There we go. Okay, so I've got that position. Let's move it to the center. Okay, so that's kind of a really close-up view there. See if I can clamp this. Okay, now my iron's still hot and it's trying to melt some plastic in my holder, but let's check this out. Look at that. It's just wicking it straight in. This thing is exceeding my expectations like you would not believe. Just watch those fumes go in and nothing's coming out the top. That is just going in, and that filter is catching it all. Wow. Just got a bit of hot something flick up. Gotta be careful. I wear glasses, so you know that's in lieu of safety glasses. Now, because I've got that camera anyway, so how about we go and do this view and see. Man, I never went to Chifley College. I got the ruler a long time ago when I was doing a Masters of Education, and I did a school visit there, but they get so much free advertising from me. Hi everybody at Chifley College. A teacher here who didn't quite make it through the education system at the tertiary level to teach at your school. So let's feed this, and look at that. I can go quite low, and it's just pulling it right across. It's not swirling, and it's just going right in. This thing is just absolutely killing it as far as fume extraction goes. I probably shouldn't do this too much because obviously I'm still producing particulates and I'm burning my supply of solder here. But it's so much fun watching the fumes get sucked into this thing. So there you go. There you go. I'm actually going to take the power off this so it can cool down. I'm just going to re-tin the tip while I've actually got the extractor on. So you know what? I'm going to be using this thing. Like, now that I know how effective it's actually being, and now that I know how much 2.5 particulate is actually being generated by soldering, I'm going to be using it. Dead straight. I'm going to be using this. I'm going to have to find space on my table to have this set up when I'm building a keyboard, when I'm soldering a macro pad, when I'm desoldering something. It's going to be noisy. I don't know what it actually sounds like because I'm trying to talk over the top of it into the microphone, but for your health, it's definitely worth it. Now, I don't know how much an official hardcore version of this is, but for 25 bucks or whatever this one is, how much was it? Yeah, for $23 US at the time that I bought this, or $23 right now for this. Now, obviously, I seem to have got a higher wattage version than what the listing shows, but you know what? I don't know if the lower wattage is going to be less effective. It just might not suck as strongly than this version. Okay, so that seems to be okay now. It's stopped giving off the fumes. So there you go. This has been a really pleasant surprise. Now, I don't know how you can clean these filters. I can't see any deposits on this thing. You know, it's actually, it's amazing. So I'm going to turn off that little camera. There we go. Okay. So, you know, it's a hefty device. What are we looking at? We're looking at about 15 by, you know, 22 tall. And it takes a base footprint of about 12 centimeters. The cable's not very long though. The power cable's not very long, so you kind of have to deal with that. And it does generate about 60 decibels. But you know what? By golly, it works. It works, it works, it works. Well, that was a great surprise, and I'm very happy for the result to be proving me wrong. Everybody who's doing soldering, you should get something that will do the job, right? Well, there you go. Here's a review done and dusted for this FA400 Hako soldering smoke absorber clone. Links below. You know the drill. Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button if you want to see me do more of these kind of things so that you guys can share in the knowledge as well. So thanks for checking out this video, and of course, until next time, happy clacking.